All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. This is going to be a lesson talking about how Jacob and Esau are not an allegory for righteousness and wickedness, right? They were literal men that existed on the earth, and they had descendants, man. Because what you're starting to see a lot of these Christians do now is they want to start trying to go into the book of Obadiah. They'll start trying to go into the Bible and speak about the Edomites more now, because they're starting to get asked questions about it in their churches, man. They're starting to see this being spoken of, and when they hear it being spoken of, and they go home and read about it, right? Because if you was in power on the world, right, if your nation was in charge of this earth, and you heard that there's a possibility that your nation cannot be in power no more, you're gonna go home and you're gonna read that, man, because you're not gonna want to live in a society where you no longer have easier access than everybody else to own a house, where you have it easier to get a job, to where you get the benefit of the doubt in the law system. You're going to want to keep it like that. So, of course, these Edomites, when they hear about Esau, go home and they read it. Forget about the pride they have when they're in front of you. After they hear you say it, they go home and they read it, man. And they study hard too, as if they're going to get a marking grading for that, man. But in front of us, they have to do the proud, stiff upper lip and all of that. They have to do that, right? Genesis chapter 9 and verse 16. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. So everybody on this earth goes back to one of the three sons of Noah, either Ham, Shem, or Japheth, right? That everyone goes back to one of those three sons. So if you go back to Ham, or you go back to Japheth, then you can't possibly be an Israelite. There's no chance, because you don't even go back to the right son. If you go back to Ham, or you go back through Japheth, there's no possible way that you could even be of the seed of Abraham, right? Because Abraham came from the line of Shem. Now, if we go into the line of Shem, right, let's go into the line of Shem. Genesis chapter 10 and verse 22. The children of Shem, Elam and Asher, and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram. Now, if you go through the line of Shem, but then you go through the line of Elam after that, there's no way that you can be from the seed of Abraham. If you go through Shem and then Asher, same thing. If you go through Shem and then Lud, same thing. If you go through Shem and then Aram, same thing. Now, if you go through Shem and Arphaxad, there's a possibility that you could be of the seed of Abraham, right? Because Abraham came from the line of Shem and then through the line of Arphaxad, right? Now, when you go further, you find out a bit more about that line of Arphaxad, man, right? Now, let's go to this. Genesis chapter 11 and verse 10. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood, right? Now, let's go down a bit lower. Verse 24. And the whore lived 20 years and begat Terah. And the whore lived after he begat Terah 119 years and begat sons and daughters. And Terah lived 3 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. So if you go through to the line of Terah, the line of Shem, the line of Arphaxad, and that trickles down through the line of Terah, right? There's a possibility that you could be of the seed of Abraham. However, if you go through Nahor or Haran, then you don't have the chance of that. And I find it funny that genealogy and DNA and all of that stuff matters to these Christians, right? They always want to talk about the DNA, your DNA. None of these Israelites, none of these black Hebrews and all that. They want to call us that. None of these BHIs and all that. They want to say none of them can prove that they're Israelites based on DNA, right? But then when it comes to the scriptures, when the scriptures say that the seed of Israel has got this going to receive this, or the seed of Israel is going to receive that, then all of a sudden now they want to say seed don't matter, and your actual genealogy don't matter no more. It's a spiritual Israel. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that they're the main ones wanting us to do an Edomite's DNA test to prove who we are? But then when the Bible says that God's going to, based on who people are, give them certain things, then that stuff don't matter no more. Isn't that interesting? When it says in the Bible that the house of Israel is going to receive a new covenant, now all of a sudden the nationality that you come from don't matter. Now all of a sudden, if you had a DNA test result that said that you wasn't of Israel, that wouldn't matter no more now, according to what they're saying, right? And that's why they come up with these lying terms, saying things like, oh, the Edomites and the Israelites are like an allegory for righteousness and wickedness, which is not true. right? Now let's go to this. Genesis chapter 25 and verse 25, right? Genesis 25 and 25. In fact, verse 21. And Isaac entreated Yahweh for his wife because she was barren. And Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb. So these were the beginnings of 2 nations, man. Jacob and Esau were the beginning of 2 different nations. And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. And she said, and after that came out his brother, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. So as Esau is getting born, right, and his last foot is coming out of his mother's womb, there was a hand connected to that foot, man. Jacob's hand, which when you end up reading the book of Esdras, the 2nd chapter, you find out that the reason for that was because it was to symbolize how Jacob is going to take down Esau at the end, man. Which I'm not going to go into that in this lesson. And I'm just focusing on proving that that Jacob and Esau were literal people and they had descendants, man. Because these Christians don't want to speak on that. Verse 26, and after that his brother came out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Now, we can go to this real quick, right? We can go to this to prove that Jacob had descendants. Matthew chapter 1 and verse 2. And Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat Judas and his brethren. Right? So this is Yahweh Shai had a genealogy, and Jacob is in that genealogy, which proves that the Israelites were literal people, not an allegory for righteousness and wickedness. And the Edomites was not an allegory for people that was going to be bad men and do bad things. No, they were literal people, man. Now, how do we prove that? Right? How do we prove this? Let's go to the Bible, right? This is Genesis chapter 36 and verse 1. Now, these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom, right? Because so when you see Edom in the scriptures, it's just talking about the Edomites, right? Verse 2, Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, Ada, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon, the Hivite, and Bashima, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajoth, and Adar bare Esau Eliphaz, and Mashima bare Ruel. So that's sons. These are people, right? And Adar begat, and Idar bare Esau Eliphaz, and Bathshemath bare Ruel, and Aholibamah bare Jeush, and Jaalam, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, which were born unto him in the land of Canaan. So these are men that were born, man. These were male. It says there were sons. These people existed. So how can Esau all of a sudden become an allegory now that we're talking judgments? But it's proven in the scriptures that Esau was a literal man. And all of his sons that were born, these sons that it mentions here, Jeush, Jaalam, and Korah, they were Edomites, right? Because their father was an Edomite. However, these sons, these names are not meant. Let's see if when we go to Yahweh Shai's lineage, it mentions Jeush, Jaalam, and Korah, because these were Esau's first sons, right? Let's see. These were some of the first Edomites born. Let's see if it mentions them in Yahweh Shai's lineage, man, right? Matthew chapter 1 and verse 2. And Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat Judas and his brethren, and Judas begat Phares, right? And Zerah and Thamar. So no, they ain't in there, man. Now watch this, man, because these Christians, they're slick. If you don't know the scriptures, right? If you don't know the Bible, then all of this stuff can work. But if you know the Bible, this stuff ain't gonna work in any way, shape, or form, man. This ain't gonna work. We ain't gonna be buying none of that. Because when you go to Genesis 36, you clearly see men born that are Edomites. Genesis the 36th chapter is the book that you can go into the Bible to show the first lineages, the first lines, the first tribes, if you want to call them that. But they're called dukes in the scriptures, but you could say tribes as well. of Esau, right? And when you go to, let me see if I remember. Let me see. Is it 37 where it starts mentioning the sons of Jacob? Or is it before that? Maybe it's before. Give me a second, Salakia. Okay, it's before. All right. So it probably would be even way before that then. I'm going to search the word Reuben, because that was Jacob's first son. All right, 29. So Genesis chapter 29 and verse 32, and Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, surely Yahweh have looked upon my affliction. Right? Now, therefore, my husband will love me. Now, let me just open up my Bible that you can't see on this video. And I want to see if I wrote down, I think I wrote down in there what Reuben means. Reuben means, see, it's a son. If I'm not mistaken, man. Right? If I'm not mistaken, man. If I'm not mistaken. Reuben means, see, it's a son. Or it means, affliction heard. Right? It means, see, it's a son. Or affliction heard. If I'm not mistaken. Right? Genesis chapter 29 and verse 32, Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, surely Yahweh have looked upon my affliction. Now, therefore, my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she said, because Yahweh have heard I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon, right? So these are men that existed, man. These are men that existed, and they traveled with Jacob into Egypt. Like, I don't understand how all of a sudden now we read about tales of these men existing, but now these Christians, now that they're realizing that they ain't the Israelites, and now that they're hearing that we're starting to believe that we're the Israelites because we are, now they want to try and make Jacob and Esau an allegory or a metaphor for people that do good things and people that do bad things. But that's not true. They want to say, oh, Esau is a member of the church, but Esau is a member of the people that do bad things in the church. Nah, man. Esau is a literal nationality of people. They're a nation of people, man. Just like how the Israelites are a nation of people. Now, how can we prove that? And you can go to Genesis 29 to read about the different nations, the different children of Jacob, man. And you can go to verse 30 as well. But let me go here and show that the seed of Israel still exists, because these Christians don't want people to talk about that, right? They don't like it. In fact, let me go to this first. They don't like the Israelites, man. Christianity does not like the Israelites, right? Because their spirit knows exactly who they are, but they can't prove it. And for the ones that can prove it, that's the reason why they're the ones that made this lying doctrine, man. Jeremiah 33 and 24, considerest thou not what these people have spoken, saying the two families which Yahweh have chosen, ye have even cast them off. Thus they have despised my people, that there should be no more a nation before them. So Yahweh is not going to cast the Israelites away, right? He ain't going to do that. He said, consider not. Yahweh told us to not consider that, right? Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah saying, considerest thou not what these people have spoken. So when these people are trying to say, oh, the Israelites were a people in the past, but now they've become an allegory spiritually. Nah, man. I'm going to consider not what you're talking about, like the Bible told us to. You're lying. You're trying to say that the Israelites are cast away with because you want to try and replace them, because you know you're not an Israelite. Verse 22, as the host of heaven cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured, so will I multiply the seed of David my servant. So Yahweh's got certain things that he wants to give to David. And isn't David considered a man after his own heart? Didn't Yahweh have mercy on David for committing adultery, for trying to number Israel? And there was one other thing that he did as well that I can't remember right now. I can't remember the other thing that he did, man. But he continually had mercy on David. And he's going to even have more mercy on them because he's going to multiply the seed of David, which is a particular line. Yahweh is saying, I'm going to multiply a particular line of the Israelites. Right? And then he also even mentions the Levites too. So how are you people trying to say that the Israelites are cast away? Let me read that last bit. And the Levites that minister unto me. So what are you people talking about? Verse 25, thus saith Yahweh, if my covenant be not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, then will I cast away the seed of Jacob, right? Which Yahweh is not going to do that because that can't be done. And David, my servant, so he's not going to get rid of David neither. King David's going to come back, right? So I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because King David's line is going to be a greater line and a more honored line among the Israelites, man. They're going to be a more honorable line than even if we're of the elect, than our lines. And that's not because we're wicked or we're bugged out or we're demons and nothing like that. It's because that's just the way Yahweh set it up. Right? Yahweh Shai is the top of King David's line. So how could we expect to be greater than King David's line when Yahweh Shai is the greatest person to ever come out of that line, and really in the spirit he's the top of that line. Right? That's why King David called him his Lord. Verse 26 again, then will I cast away the seed of Jacob and David my servant, so that I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for I will cause their captivity to return and have mercy on them. So how can Yahweh have mercy on somebody that's been cast away? Or that's done away with, or that's spiritual? No, man. They were real. And they still are real. They still exist. And that's why the 144,000 comes out of them. Christians will say, nah, the tribes ain't the same as what you see in the book of Genesis. But all the tribes that are mentioned and all the people that are mentioned are either one of Jacob's sons, or they're one of Jacob's son's name. So how are those people not Israelites? It doesn't make any sense. It replaces Dan. In fact, I'll go to that in a minute after I read this. Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 35. Thus saith Yahweh, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves doth roar. Yahweh of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahweh, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. So that lets you know that God has got a certain covenant, a certain thing that he's set in stone to prove that the Israelites are still here. A thing that he's challenged the people of this world. Okay, if you can do this, you know what? You want to think that the Israelites can't have this and can't have that. You know what? Then I'll set you a challenge. If you can do this, right, then I'll get rid of them then. But the thing I'm challenging you to do can't be done. So what am I telling you? That I'm not going to cast them away just because you don't like them. Because I chose this nation for myself. They're the vessels of mercy. Verse 37, thus saith Yahweh, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith Yahweh. Which lets you know that the Israelites are not no allegory for righteousness or for wickedness, right? They're not. The Israelites don't resemble a people that do good in the earth. And the Edomites don't represent a people that do bad in the earth. They're literal nations on the earth. And the Edomites are the wicked. Yet the Israelites have done wickedness. I'll say that again. The Edomites are the wicked. Yet the Israelites have done wickedness. But the Israelites are the vessels of mercy. And these are literal people that exist on the earth. Right? And Yahweh knows the way how to decide how to define and how to decipher who's who. That he's not allowed us as humans on this earth to know. Esau doesn't have a DNA test to prove who you are. And that's why even on his DNA test that he does, he says that you're 50% this, you might be 1% that, 25% this. That don't make any sense. How can you be half a nation? Or how can you be 98% a nation, but then 2% of another one? That don't make no sense, since your seed came from one man. There's never been a time where a farmer comes out of his land, right, and starts harvesting his crop, and his fruit, he picks up a fruit and it's 50% an orange, but 25% a grape, and then the rest of it is 25% banana. That don't happen. It's 100% whatever the fruit is. Now, when you go to Revelation 7, you still find that the Israelites exist. Now, Christians ain't going to say this. They're going to lie. But the Bible is clear when it says what it says. Revelation chapter 7 and verse 4, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and they were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Who were the tribes of the children of Israel? They were Jacob's sons. Jacob's sons, Israel's sons, became tribes, right? They were Israelites themselves, and they became tribes. And any one of them, after they had sons, they became a member of their forefathers' tribe. Any son of Benjamin is a Benjamite. And any of Benjamin's sons, they became Benjamites. Yet they all are Israelites. So every Jew, right, is an Israelite, but not every Israelite is a Jew, because some Israelites go back to the tribe of Simeon, or some Israelites go back to the tribe of Reuben. Yet every single Reubenite, every single Gadite, every single Ephraimite, every single Manassite, every single Issacharite, right, every single Zebulonite, they're all Israelites because they all are tribes of Israel. And the Israelite thing is what matters first. And Israelites are not a spiritual thing. It's not a spiritual thing. Oh, I'm an Edomite, but spiritually I'm an Israelite. No, you're an Edomite, and you're an Edomite, and you're gonna receive whatever Edomites are destined to receive, which according to the Bible is Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 18, which is extermination of the face of the earth, where there's going to be no member remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh have spoken it. And the Israelites are going to receive the new covenant, which is everlasting life. Some are going to receive it to shame, and some are going to receive it to everlasting life, man. Revelation chapter 7 and verse 5. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Asher was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Simeon was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Zebulun was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph or Ephraim was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin was sealed 12,000. Now, if you ask a Christian, okay, you're saying these people are not the children of Israel, so how does a Gentile become part of the tribe of Judah instead of the tribe of Zebulun? Or what makes a Gentile be part of the tribe of Joseph instead of, for let's say, the tribe of Naphtali? And then if you wait and listen, you're going to hear crickets in the background because they don't have an answer for that. You'll be able to hear a pin drop, a pencil drop, a coin. You'll be able to hear your heart beating. They ain't got the answer for that, man. Because they're just now starting to get on the drawing board and come up with lies. They're sitting down with a blackboard. They're like, man, what lies can we come up with? Because this whole Israelite thing is getting out of hand now. What lies can we come up with? They're getting in front of their church congregations. They're having private meetings, the main guys in the church. They're coming up with lies. They're like, okay, let's read it. But we're going to have to lie because we are the Edomites, but we're going to have to lie and come up with something. So what? Anyone got any ideas? Let's say John 3:16. Nah, we've tried the John 3:16 thing already. People ain't buying that no more. Let's try and say that Jacob and Esau are allegories. Okay, let's try that. And then they get in front of their congregation and lie their ass off, man. That's what they're doing. Just lying, man. There's a whole prophecy, and I'm going to read it right now. There's a whole prophecy that speaks about how the Israelites are going to receive a salvation greater than the one they received in Egypt. And it mentions seed line receiving it. Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 6. And in his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely, meaning both the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. And this is the name whereby they shall be called, the Lord Yahweh our righteousness. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that they shall no more say, Yahweh liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but Yahweh liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. Now, these Christians will try and say, okay, have you did a DNA test to prove that you're an Israelite? Well, okay, let's say we haven't. Let's say we're not Israelites then. Let's say that all of these so-called black people that are saying that they're Israelites, let's say they're not. Then it still wouldn't be for us then. This salvation would still be only to who the Israelites are. And we already acknowledge if we're not Israelites, we're going into the captivity that we are saying that the heathen are going to go into. But guess what? We are Israelites though. And that's why you people are mad. And the proof that we're Israelites is that we don't have to lie. We ain't getting emotional and trying to make salvation be for everybody because we don't believe that we're an Israelite. We're saying salvation is only for the Israelites. That's what we're saying. Yet all of you people are asking for proof. What's your nationality? You're running around spending all your time telling us what nationality we are. What's your nationality, man? You're complaining that we go into Deuteronomy 28 to prove who we are. What do you use in the Bible to prove who you are? Or are you just going to say the Bible says don't go into endless genealogies? So then why are you telling us to take a DNA test then? If that's the case, why are you saying the Bible says don't go into endless genealogies, but you're telling us to take a DNA test? Are you a hypocrite? Yes, you are. You all are hypocrites, ain't you? Every single one of you Christians is really a hypocrite, man. You want to talk genealogy and proof one stage, but then when it comes to the Bible saying that certain things are promised to the seed of Israel, you're saying it's spiritual. You're trying to make it be a spiritual Israel. But then when it comes to us, you're trying to say to us, prove you're an Israelite. You ain't even acknowledging that we might spiritually be Israelites, according to even your own doctrine. You ain't even acknowledging that. Because you've been blinded, man. I'm going to end the lesson there. The Israelites and the Edomites are not an allegory for good and bad, for righteousness and wickedness. They're literal people that exist on the earth, man. The Edomites, the Israelites, they exist on the earth, right? They exist on the earth, man. The Edomites are the majority of these so-called white people that you see on the earth. Yet there will be Edomites that also look like other nationalities. Because Edomites have children with other women of other nations. But the majority of them still look like the template image that they was born with, which is that of a so-called white man. The Israelites are the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans because their forefather, Jacob, was a so-called black man that had children with different women. And the different women that he had children with gave them, based on their individual tribes, a different template image. Yet they still all go back to a certain man, yet they'll still be descendants from Israel that look like every other nation. Because the Israelite man likes to sleep and have children with different women. But they still go back to the base template image of what they look like, which is that of a so-called black man, Latino, or Native American of different shades of brown skin. I'm going to end the lesson there. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. Shalom.